What's up, Digital Business Evolution? Welcome back to the show. We've got a very special guest today. We've got our first official episode of 2023 with Mike.
It's surprising that it's February and this is our first one together.
I know.
I'm partially offended. I know. We've been busy.
Yeah. Well, we were actually waiting. It was very intentional. We were waiting to put out such a juicy episode. We had to let everybody get so excited.
The pressure.
All right, so what we're talking about today are all things social media, how we can kind of distinguish between using it as a weapon and a tool. We're talking about our mental health that we've had with social media, how we navigate boundaries in a relationship, just having a supportive spouse, maybe not having a so supportive spouse, and really just all things social media, because when you come into our world, we're teaching you how to package up digital education and use social media as organic marketing. So a huge misconception that people have is, well, I don't want to have to be on Instagram all day. And so then there's a resistance and they no longer want to help other people. They don't want to serve because they're letting that fear of being behind my phone all day stop them from actually starting. So we kind of wanted to just break down a couple different things, and even how much do you share? It's such a popular question that people ask, do I have to share my kids? Do I have to show all my meals? And so over the last 10 years that I've been on social media, using it as marketing, I think we've definitely navigated some tricks, some ups, some downs. So we're just gonna have a candid conversation about it.
Yeah, and it's funny when you first said social media, I would imagine some people might be like, if they know, well, Mike's not really on, so what is he gonna talk about during this conversation? But a lot of friends, family, peers, students, clients ask how we navigate it together. And I also get a lot of questions about, why aren't you building your brand and the pressures that come with that, whether I decide to or not. So there's a whole slew of things that we can really talk about. And you already did mention the big one, which is, how do we really navigate our day-to-day life when you are showing up so much on social media?
And you're on the real behind the scenes. You see the work that it takes and the time that I put into it.
The REAL and the REEL.
Not the same thing.
No.
Although in our world, the real is the real.
Because the behind the scenes of the REELs
is really long.
Yes.
They take a long time to edit.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. All right, well, let's kick it off first with this idea that social media, I believe, is a weapon and a tool. So I want to break that down for a second, because when we learn how to use a hammer could nail a nail into the wall. It also, on the flip side, can pull a nail out of the wall. Mm-hmm. But of course, if a hammer used incorrectly, it could be a weapon where I can now hurt somebody, smash a finger. I don't know. We don't need to get into violent detail, but you can imagine what we could do with it. So social media is really the same. It can be used as a weapon or a tool. So it's weaponized when, number one, it's consuming, right? It's all consuming of your life. You're in comparison, limiting beliefs. You're looking at other people's lives thinking, again, we're comparing our highlight reel, right? So you're thinking that they have everything, their life is perfect, and you sort of get into this mental spiral that you can happen. It also can be a weapon when there's bullying and there's internet trolls and people are saying nasty things or blasting people out in a negative way. But then, of course, it's an incredible tool, one that we didn't have even 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. I think Facebook came out, we were in college. 2003, 4?
I think 2004.
Yeah, so about 20 years ago, we didn't have social media platforms, and now they're free marketing tools.
And just part of life.
Yeah,
people are growing up with them.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
The kids nowadays, they don't know a world without social media.
Right.
And it is really how they socialize as well. And there's so many different apps and cool things that you can do. So whether you're using social media as a tool for marketing for your own business, because it's a free marketing tool, or you're using it to connect with people in your town, in your country, globally. I mean, we've met some really cool people through social media. We found out about events, we've bought tickets to things, concerts. So when used appropriately, it can be a really great tool. Do you have any kind of insight on the weapon or tool thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that come up for me. I mean, one, you have to think about the history of, just humanity, right? And social media magnifies everything, right? So when you think about, go back to middle school, right? Where there was no social media for us. And it's
Thank
just,
goodness.
right, I know. When there was gossiping or so-and-so's talking about this person or that person, it was traumatic, right?
Yeah.
But now multiply, especially for us, because we didn't grow up with it. So I actually think that the kids now, they're just growing up with it, so they're used to it.
Yeah,
but
they're better equipped than we would have been.
Right. And the reason I bring this up is because people that are kind of entering into this social media world, they're not used to it, right? So it's like, oh, I want to start a business, or my husband or my spouse or whatever wants to start a business and they want to market it online, it can be a shock when you start to get those internet trolls that you said, or things start to get magnified, meaning you put up a post and now the whole town can see it, right? Yeah. We'll call it the town. The whole town can see it, right? As opposed to before where it's like, if you wanted to talk about something, you're talking about it at maybe a party where there's a few people, or maybe you have an event and it's a controlled space. Social media, I mean, you easily could go viral.
Yes.
So the second thing about that is having to deal with a lot of the negativity that you talked about. And the thing that somebody shared something this week on social media that we both know, and they've been getting a lot of hate lately because they're pivoting. Oh. And they're starting to talk about things that these trolls don't feel like this person should be talking about, right? And this isn't some controversial topic where the person doesn't have certifications and they're like talking about medicine or anything. They want to make a new type of like men's handbag, okay? Gotcha. So this isn't this big controversial topic, but out come the trolls because they feel that they are entitled to some sort of opinion.
Right.
And I commented on this person's post and I just said, you're the man in the arena. Everyone else is just a spectator, right? And there's a couple people that actually said that, which was cool. And it's important to remember that. Now, this is what causes a lot of celebrities, be it sports, any type of celebrity. A lot of people can't handle it. Yeah. Now, a lot of people can because they've done the work or they're getting some sort of emotional support and they understand that they're the man or woman person in the arena and everyone else is just a spectator. Yeah. So my point is, if you're going to put yourself out there, right, you're the person in the arena, everybody else is just a spectator. And as much as that's easy to say and not always easy to embody, because when people are saying nasty things, it can be hard to deal with that, right? Because you're being vulnerable, you're putting yourself out there, and then people are supportive, and then there's these random people who are just gonna make comments and they're gonna troll you, but you're the one who's putting yourself out there. They're too scared to do that and they're projecting their fears onto you because you're the one who's willing to make a change. So I just find that man in the arena thing very appropriate.
Woman in the arena.
Person in the arena, very appropriate for this type of thing because at the end of the day, if you know your core values and you're trying to make a positive impact, it doesn't matter what the trolls are going to say because if you help one person, there's nothing more important than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, when you think about weapon, what was the other weapon? And tool, it really just depends on how you're using it and being able to handle some of that like negativity.
Yeah. Yeah, and there isn't always negativity. We've only actually experienced a couple comments over the last 10 years, and it was when we started to run ads that a couple comments came in. And it is pretty jarring because you're like, what? I'm just putting out this really valuable information. Like, who are you? Where are you coming from? So the emotional intelligence to sort of keep the neutrality is really important. And it's really hard. It really is. I've definitely struggled even with how much to be vulnerable. So you brought that up. And a huge question that we get from our clients and from people just on the internet is, do I have to share everything? Do I have to share my kids? How vulnerable do I have to be? And I really believe that the word vulnerability, it's used a lot. So is authentic, right? Authenticity, it's used a lot. But what people maybe there's like a misconception. You don't have to air all your skeletons in your closet. You don't have to share every moment of every single day. You certainly do not need to tell people where you are at every moment or who's in your life in order for people to connect to you. So one of the really cool things with social media is that it gives us the ability to connect with each other, build that know, like, and trust. And to your point before, part of the reason why this person's audience, the bags that he's making, part of the reason why his audience maybe is actually getting triggered that he's making a small pivot is because we feel so connected when we're following someone that we're following them for a certain thing. And so we expect that when we come to their page, we're going to get that thing. And so when they start to pivot...
And they think that's the only... Sorry to interrupt. They think that's the only thing that you can speak on and the only thing that you do. And they're like, what are you doing talking about this?
Well, because you feel the human body, you feel abandoned. So as he starts to talk about something new, they're feeling like, wait, you're leaving me. And so psychologically, like real deep down inside, all of a sudden they feel unsafe. And so out of panic, it's like, wait, you can't talk about that. You're not equipped for that. Or I don't want to hear you talk about that. And we've all experienced it, especially when people go like viral or something gets shared. You see something that you like, and you're like, wow, I'm going to go follow this account. But it was just like a one-off thing. And then all of a sudden that account, you followed them because they said something funny. And then you get to their page and you're like, oh, all their content is about like training cats. I don't want to follow you for training cats. I wanted to follow you because I thought it was like a comedy account, but it was this one-off thing. And so that's where a lot of times hate comes in too, because people are like, what is this? This is stupid.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think about how, and again, to your point, it's probably a natural inclination, but people think that they know everything about you, right? So I remember recently, you put up something that was more fashion driven.
Yes.
And all of your audience doesn't know that you went to the Fashion Institute of Technology. Fashion has always been a big thing for you. And it was interesting, some of the comments that you got, right? It wasn't so much hate, it was kind of just feedback. Yeah. They thought they were giving feedback, right?
It was hundreds and hundreds of, yes, please keep doing this. Yeah. And one person was like, I don't follow you for fashion.
Right, which is fine. True. But it's part of your life. It's always been part of your life. And depending on where someone has jumped in your journey, they might think, oh, this is strange. Is this person pivoting? Similar to the story I just brought up about the bags, right? So they think they know everything, which the mental health aspect, like you have to just know that going into when you're going to post something.
You know, it's funny, at the end of the day, Instagram stories used to be 15 seconds. Now they're 60 seconds. So let's just, on average, say that any maybe business owner like myself who's using social media consistently every single day, I probably put up about 8 minutes throughout the whole day on Instagram stories. How many minutes are there in a day?
I don't know.
24 hours, 60 minutes an hour?
Whatever that math is.
That's a lot of minutes, and you're seeing 8 of a curated space, 8 of me intentionally coming on to say something specific or show you something specific.
That's such a good point. Yeah. That's such a good point.
And I'm doing a lot of minutes.
It's a fraction of the day.
It's a fraction.
So there's 2 ways to look at that, right? One, it can be like, wow, maybe don't judge that person or think that that's all that they do.
Right.
But also, the flip side, they have this person has the ability to show you certain curated things. Yes. So also, as the viewer, use caution and realize that you're only seeing a fraction of their life.
Yeah.
So as the consumer, don't get caught up in comparison. Yep. Because it's important to remember that you're seeing a very small fraction of this person's life. Yeah. And we all poop.
We all poop. We all cry. We all poop. It's
we
true.
all have issues.
Yeah.
Everyone has their issues, regardless of whether they're jet setting, have yachts.
Yep.
Have the business that you think you want to have. So from both the consumer,
or that you think they have.
I was going to say from the consumer perspective, but everybody's consuming. Like you consume as well.
Of course.
These creators that a lot of you follow, they're consuming as well. And we know some influencers and some creatives, many that have very large followings, and they express to us the same type of angst and comparison
that we have, that our clients have.
Correct.
Yeah.
Whether you have 100 followers,
we're all the same.
Whether you haven't gone on any platform yet at all, or whether you have 1 million followers, it's all the same.
Yeah.
So
I want to come back to vulnerability for a second. So in terms of how much should you share, ultimately that's going to be your decision. I do think that there's power in sharing some pieces of you that make you real, but I don't think that you need to share everything. And I know we certainly have. And there's a difference in my world between when something is a scab and when something is a scar. And so if you are going through something that you don't feel comfortable sharing, number one, you never have to. Number two, does it actually make sense for your audience, for your business, for the storytelling as a whole? There's such a fine line between using trauma and things that have happened as almost marketing. So you want to be really cautious that you're not crossing the line of just using a story for marketing purposes, but how does it actually affect your audience and how does it relate to them and why does it matter in the big picture? But also I know for us, what we went through back in September with our topic, I wasn't ready to share right away, but the minute it happened, I knew I was going to share because I knew that it could help other people. I wanted to talk about it from the lens of business, from the lens of trying to get pregnant, from the lens of us being married, like so many different areas that I wanted to bring it up. But I waited about 8 to 10 weeks, I think, before. And for me, that was a time that felt appropriate. I didn't wait a certain number of weeks and then say I'm going to talk about it. I waited until I felt a little bit more ready. When it had first happened, it was a raw scab. And I wasn't ready because I hadn't really learned any lessons at that point. I was very much in it. So I wait a little bit longer, and then I still discern, is this something that I even want to share? What's the intention behind it, right?
Yeah.
Starting with the end in mind. So with us in our life, we don't share the majority of our life. We don't share the majority of our relationship. And I know when we were doing RV life and we were traveling, something that we were very mindful of was we would document everything. So there's a difference between documenting and creating. Creating is intentionally creating a movie, a picture, an image, a storyline. Documenting is I'm pulling out the phone, I'm documenting this thing real quick. This is where we are, this is what we're doing, this is what I'm eating, this is where we're hiking. Really, really important. As I would document along the way, I would save all the stories. So I'd film it, I would then save it. That does two things. Number one, it helps me stay present in the moment so that I'm not always with head down on the phone putting things up in real time.
Yeah.
Number two, we didn't have Wi-Fi.
Real quick, this is kind of funny about the being present, right? I feel like most people like you who have been doing this for a while, and most of our our peers that are doing similar things are aware of that. It's when I see people that aren't really using their Instagram to monetize or don't have experience with it. They're the ones that I see that are like,
yes, you're out to lunch and they're
taking the time to do it. And in my head, I'm just like, man, this is so funny. Not to shout anyone out, but I went on a ski trip recently and this person felt the need to post stories while on the chairlift. And I'm like, bro, we could do this later.
Yes,
you know? I'm like, yes, take the picture of me flying down the mountain, please. Okay? But you don't have to post it right now.
Yeah.
Like, your hands are cold. But
right.
Anyway, so continue.
So with the documenting process, and I really got good at this when we lived in New York City. Just walking around the streets and stuff, going to events, subway, losing Wi-Fi.
Because you're taking people on a journey.
I'm taking people on the journey. So I would document what I'm doing, save the stuff, and then later on during the day, in my work day, the next day, I would then mass post. So I'd go on and I would mass post everything. And that way it also gave me time to kind of create a story of what is the intention of all these things? Because we were going on a lot of hikes during RV life and it starts to look the same. So how can I create a story? How can I create value out of this? Whether it's value, ha ha ha, right? Or a pattern interrupt, a break in your day, something that's fun and relatable, a beautiful scene. Or can I relate this back to business and climbing the mountain and things being hard and keep going, right? And so it would give me time to sort of think about that. I would then do it all in one sitting. So for us in RV life, when we'd get back to the RV at night and we were cooking dinner, I would take a half hour and I would sit down and I'd put all the stories up. And what that did was it also created a container and a boundary for you as us as partners, where it was like, hey babe, I'm gonna go clock in. I'm clocking into social media. I treat it like I'm clocking in, clocking out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna do this thing until it's done, and then I'm gonna come back and be present, as opposed to just all day constantly being on. So this idea of sort of clocking in and how much do we share, and for us waiting, one of the reasons we decided to wait when we were living in the RV life was just, we have, at the time, my old account, 25,000 followers. I'm not Kylie Jenner, but also...
Well, there's that too, yeah.
I just don't need 25,000 people to know exactly where I am at every given moment.
Yeah.
When we're traveling, it just felt weird. So I would wait 6, 12, 24 hours before I would actually post the hotel that we were just staying in. And that was just for a safety thing.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, just one thing I want to add too is, like, you mentioned this before, like, what's the intention, right? So, yeah, we have people that are using Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all these things for, more so for fun, right? Showing their families and travel and things like that. And but we're speaking to the people who are creators, they're monetizing, they're looking to build businesses through organic social media marketing. And you have to just think about the end in mind, like you said. What's the intention, right? So if the intention is so you sell mugs, then maybe the best thing to not be putting up like randomly as like stuff about like curtains, right? Two things that I just see. I like lamp. Let me just clarify. So I see a lot of sometimes our clients, and I ask Jess because she's more in the weeds with them, and I handle more of the back end, and I'm like, what does this person do? And you say, why, Mike? Why are you asking? And I said, well, because one minute they're on social media, out at the bars doing things and taking pictures with their friends, which is great. And then the next minute they're talking about something else like, I don't know, candles. And then the next minute they're talking about spiritual books. And then the next minute they're talking about retreats. And then they're talking about business coaching. So I'm like, what is this person doing, right? So when you think about being intentional And going back to what you said about telling a story, it's like, just be consistent with your story. It's good to show the behind the scenes, the life, take the person on the journey, like, because you're going to have ideal clients that are aspiring to live the life that you are living and things like that. It also makes you more relatable and humanizes you, right? But I see this jumping around so much, and I know this isn't the topic of the conversation today, but it's like so many people are jumping around with what they're talking about on social media instead of just focusing on what their niche is, what's the story that they want to tell, having their pillars, and just going through that through the week, right? And you are intentional about that. You're always intentional about that, right? And if people watch, there isn't typically something that comes out random. The fashion things seem to come out random for that particular person, but people that have been following along for a while, they know that wasn't random because you always do the mirror thing. Whenever you and I go somewhere together, we do the mirror, take a picture in front of the mirror, we do the mirror thing, like a little boomy, right? It's like, I'm doing stuff for the YouTube video. I'm winking.
It's really good.
Yeah, it's real good. It's cool. But yeah, so that's just kind of like a little piece of advice in my opinion. And people might go to my page and say, well, Mike, you don't do that. And well, I'm not the face of our brand, and that is intentional. There was a time where I said, maybe I'll do this too. This was about a year ago. I started, if you go back to like at the beginning of 2022, I put up like a couple Canva slides, and then throughout our V life, it was, I was taking people and family and friends and whoever else wanted to follow.
But yours is a personal page.
On this, well, it's a personal page, but I was trying to, in 2021, I was trying to demonstrate and show a lot of the lessons that I was learning by living on the road.
Right. But still personal. You're not monetizing it.
Right. I wasn't monetizing it. So mine is like, correct. Yeah.
Yes.
Mine's hodgepodge for the most part.
Yeah.
There's usually, I have some intentions behind my posts, It's not just a picture of the dog. If it is, I'll create some story about it, right? But
Handsome dog.
I see people trying to monetize doing the same thing.
Right.
And I'm like, you got to just focus on what your brand is and what your story is. And that's how people build brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Instagram stories specifically, or Facebook stories, YouTube now has shorts, like those shorter formed content pieces are where you are going to share the kind of things that feel almost random. So when you're thinking about your content pillars, which Mike alluded to, and this is not a social media teaching episode, so I'm not going to get into it, but your content pillars are for your main content, whether that's your emails, your podcast episodes, or like your hard posts on your page. Your highlight covers is where it's really important information that people want to have access to all the time. So client testimonials, about you, that type of stuff. And then your stories is where you're going to share the most, majority of your personality, the weird things that seem to make no sense at all. But it's your job as a business owner to make them make sense. So even when I did do the fashion stuff, it's a segue into, hey, did you know this about me? And it's an opportunity for me to say, like, if you haven't learned about me in my story, let me take you back.
And it's right before you go to some cool event.
Right.
So then they get to see you at the event so.
Yeah. And you could turn it into anything, really.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's chat for a second about just kind of boundaries, because I know how much time I spend, and it has gotten less over the years as I've gotten better and faster, but I could spend all day on the phone on social media. And I know, not I think, I know that the majority of our clients are doing this.
Well, sorry, can I just say something real quick as a newbie? Because I'm considered a newbie compared to like you. It's, you're like the master, right? Compared to me.
10 years.
Whenever I get, if I'm posting something, which like we just talked about, it's I'm rare. Not monetizing. Yeah. So it's like, whatever. You're just like, honey, it's not that important. Messy action. And I'm like, you're right.
Yes.
Because I think so many people get frozen thinking that it has to be this perfectly curated thing. And I think there was a time and a place for that, maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago. No?
Instagram?
Yeah, kind of, right? But now it's kind of just like,
7 years ago, it was very like picture aesthetic. 4 years ago,
Yeah, a lot of the butt photos.
I never put a butt photo
I know you
up.
didn't.
Oh.
But those people that did, they have a lot of followers, right?
Yeah, they did.
My point is like,
Butts sell.
Just put it up. People want the real. People want the raw. Tell your story. Tell the message.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about sort of the boundaries of being in a relationship together.
I went way off the rails there. That's
so,
fine.
Being in a relationship together, you being behind the scenes, me being on social now, it's actually technically more than 10 years because it's 2023, which is crazy. but monetizing starting back in 2012.
It's almost 20 years if you think about the whole thing, but monetizing.
I wasn't, yeah, it was
2012, okay.
So you would come home from work in 2012 and I would be on a Facebook Live. I would be hosting a Facebook group, a challenge. I was working on ebooks.
Yeah.
I was slinging ebooks, $79, right? So you've seen a lot of it. And over the years, especially when I left my teaching job in 2017 and I went all in on entrepreneurship, I would say that my time spent behind the phone on social media duplicate, 2x, 3x, 4x. And there was definitely a lot of time that I spent, like a lot of our clients, where it was all I was doing, thinking that if I post more, if I scroll more, if I engage more, like and comment, talk to people in the DMs, then my business will grow. And while there's very small truth to some of that, that's not how you grow a business. Social media is one type of marketing, and it falls inside the marketing department of your business. We've got marketing, we've got sales, we've got lead generation, you've got operations.
Boundaries.
So you've got lots of different pillars in your business, a lot of different departments. So when you're spending a ton of time on social media and you're in a relationship, you have a partner, you have a roommate, it could feel really triggering for the other person. It could feel really annoying for the other person. The other person might get resentful, like, oh, you're on your phone again, or can you just pay attention to me? And we still, till this day, have these conversations. So I'd love to just ask your opinion on sort of how you have navigated me being on the phone and me being the face of a brand where I am always capturing and documenting and on.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's people that feel like that, but I don't recall feeling like that. And the reason is because I understood the why behind what you were doing. So that could be your answer right there, where it's like...
Because I'm not just scrolling, I'm working.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And here we can flip it. There's been times where you might have thought I was scrolling, and maybe we were supposed to be making a decision on something, talking about something.
Where to eat.
Picking a movie.
For
an hour. We watched a lot of previews. But, and you think I'm scrolling, and that could cause resentment or frustration. In reality, I might be like checking something that I want to check or reading an article about something that's important to us, whatever. But for you, being the one that's the face and the brand and your Instagram is the one that monetizes our business, I need to understand the why behind it.
Yes.
So you explained the why. I didn't always know what you were doing or how you were doing it, and it's been a cool journey watching since 2012. But you explained to me the why. You got me bought in. So I think that was a big part of it from the get-go. So for the people that are looking to do something like that, it's just, if it's a spouse, making sure that they understand the why. Other people don't need to understand. Who cares, right?
It's also communication, though. I still, 10 years later, and you probably don't care, I always announce.
No, I do care.
Okay.
I do care. Yeah.
I always announce when I'm like, hey, babe, I'm just going to do this thing real quick. I'm going to put up a post.
Because we might be about to do something. Or, and these are small examples because small in terms of little parts of our day, but these are important because this is real stuff, and this is the stuff that most likely is happening to other people, where we might go walk the dog.
Yes.
And you might say, hey, can you take Montana? Because I have a couple things I want to do, or I want to talk to camera.
Yes.
Right? We might be in a promotional period. And it's a great use of time. Now, not if it's our walk that we do, or we're
decompressing.
We're decompressing. We're spending time together. We're talking, things like that. But if it's just like a midday walk, and you're like, I want to put up some stories because we have a bunch of calls, you just tell me. I know that was the point. You announce it. Also, it could be, as you alluded to earlier, hey, I need 30 minutes. I'm going to put up a bunch of stories because we had a busy day where we were, bouncing around, traveling, or whatever we were doing, and I want to make sure that I get it up. Yeah. Now, as someone who understands the why behind it and the importance behind it, yeah, great. Now, obviously, if there was something more pressing where I'm like, hey, no, don't forget, we have to go do the XYZ, right? But yeah, I mean, it's just understanding the why and the communication.
It's interesting, though, because on the flip side, where I am the face, I am the brand, I have been for so many years, I'm the one doing all the Instagram stuff.
Here it comes.
I will get triggered. I will get resentful and get upset when you're on, because to me, I don't understand. I can't conceptualize why someone would just want to be on social media.
Yeah.
And I will get upset because I'm like, I've been on all day. I've been posting or creating or writing or coaching, now I'm off, and why are you on?
Yeah,
And
well,
so
I mean,
we've had that conversation too, where I'm like, please, can you put it down? I don't want, and you it's not like you're scrolling for hours. I'm just like,
right.
Can you pay attention to me?
Yeah, well, this goes back to the mental health thing for a lot of people, right? Where the bottom line is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a very high percentage of the population has a phone addiction.
Yes.
Right? And
we all
so it's important to give yourself grace, but also check yourself and take a look at the time spent on the phone, because it's always just so eye-opening. Going back to what you said in terms of what I'm doing, I know that that's not the purpose of the conversation, but there are times, admittedly, where I get sucked in.
Yeah.
Right? But there are times also where I feel like
he's not even on TikTok. That's the worst sucker-inner.
No, I refuse. But there's times where I feel like I'm doing market research, right? So I'm watching some of the people that we follow. I do check in with some friends to see what's going on in their life, but that's where it's important to just draw the line. I think to draw the line, because then it can start getting into the mental health stuff. And look, if you can't handle the truth, you need me on this wall. If you
What's the movie?
A Few Good Men.
Good job.
Did you know?
Somewhere in the files.
Jack Nicholson?
Somewhere in the files. I knew the quote.
Tom Cruise?
I knew the quote.
Yeah.
Surprised you didn't do it with an accent.
Great scene. There is no accent. He just yells.
Surprised you didn't yell. Don't yell. You have
Are we clear?
See?
And then Tom Cruise says, Crystal. It's a great movie.
Reel it in.
I can't. You just derailed me. But mental health.
Let's talk about mental health real quick, and then we can kind of put a bow on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we get addicted to the dopamine hits of the scroll. TikTok makes it worse for people because it's this, it's more constant, right? And Instagram does it with
repetitive instant gratification.
Correct, right? So, and if you think about Instagram, when people say stop the scroll, right? So, it's like scroll, dopamine, trigger, and people actually get addicted to the trigger. Similarly, without iPhones or phones and social media, you wake up in the morning. Joe Dispenza talks about this, right? You wake up in the morning, you want to remember who you are, so you instantly start thinking about all the things that trigger you, right? You start thinking, oh, I'm this type of person, so like let me go find evidence of that so I can be, right? Yep. Specifically, let me look at something on social media and get upset because someone went somewhere and didn't invite me. I'm excluded. Yeah, I'm an includer.
In state that you were yesterday.
Right, because then you have an identity, right? It's important to check yourself, and if you feel like that's happening, I had a friend recently who, we call it like social media detox. He just completely removed himself from Instagram, which cold turkey.
Yeah,
right.
It's awesome.
It's awesome because they're not monetizing, but at the same time, it's kind of like sometimes extremes work for people. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So what I did a couple years ago, I think it was 2021. I just stopped following things that weren't enhancing my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need to follow all these political pundits and all this stuff. Like, let me follow things that are enhancing my life.
Right.
I'm going to go follow a ski mountain. I'm going to follow...
Just Glazer Duros.
Yes. I'm going to follow people that are putting out positive messages that are enhancing my life.
Absolutely.
Whether it's nutrition, mental health, maybe some business stuff. And the second I start to see some agenda, I unfollow it because I don't...
Yeah.
And it might sound like running away, but it's like, no. It's a choice not to consume those type of things, because we can create, with social media, you have the ability to create the bubble you want to live in. Don't let social media create the bubble for you. Right. Because it will. It'll show you more.
Based on what you're engaging with.
Yeah, and it's just going to create this echo chamber inside of you, and it creates this spiral. And the comparison thing is a big thing too for people.
Yeah. Well, this is a conversation that we had a lot in 2020 and 2021 when we did hit the road and our life sort of completely changed, and you came into the business, and just there was a lot of transformation and transition for us. And so at that time we had the conversation a lot of, if you're muting an account or unfollowing an account, are you running from it? Like, how much should you lean in and work through the trigger? And then how much also should you just know your personal boundary? And to your point, if it's not feeding you, then why are you choosing to follow it? And so we had that conversation a lot. am I running away if I'm muting and unfollowing, or am I just like protecting my own boundaries and knowing my edge, right? And knowing my limit. And I think we both have played with that. I certainly have unfollowed thousands, literally thousands of accounts. When we first got into the RV, I remember I unfollowed 3,000 accounts. I had been following about 6,000. I've unfollowed about 3,000. A couple months later, I had muted about 50% of the ones I still was following. And then I got to a place where I'm like, I don't want to follow any of these things anymore. The evolution of how many years that I had been on social media, it just wasn't even serving me. I wasn't interested in that stuff anymore, those people, those industries. So I just sort of had to clean house for myself, because most of the accounts that I'm following now are actually interior design and fashion and things that ultimately have nothing to do with my business, where back in the day I was following a lot of creators and coaches. And like you said, an echo chamber, I love that, just even visual of an echo chamber, because I was sucked in this wheel. It was like a hamster wheel, an echo chamber of just like the same.
Yeah, and how can you get creative in that?
And as a creator, yeah, exactly. As a creator, I'm like, I don't even know what my idea is anymore. Or you see something and you're like, oh gosh, now I can't say that because he or she said that, even though that's what I wanted to say anyway. It just is, it's so hard. And it's not the comparison and shiny objects. It's just impossible to keep your blinders on when all you see is all of that type of stuff around
it's like,
you.
It's like when someone says, hey, don't think of a giraffe.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Right.
You thought of a giraffe, right? Going back to what you said about running away from it, putting your head in the sand, I remember the conversation because it came up because I saw an interview with Mike Tyson, and someone was saying to him that, you know, if someone does me wrong or whatever they said, he's like, you know, I cut them off and I move on. And it's like, some people, well, yeah, that's great. Like, right. move on. It's okay. You're not on this earth to like have to suffer through relationships and things. And Mike Tyson said something very interesting, and I know a lot of people that don't know his you know, kind of his mindset where he's at right now might be like, Mike Tyson, but like he's gone through this big transformation, and he said, if you run away, if you cut them off, then they still
have the power
over you. Yeah, thanks. I was gonna say own you, but they don't own you. You're giving your power away to them. Now, I think it's not as simple as that, because when you think about social media, right? And this goes back to what we initially said about, you know, how many people get exposed to what you say with one post, right? If you decide to mute someone, it doesn't mean that if they call you, you're going to not answer the phone or answer the phone and be rude to them, right? But you don't have to follow them on social media, because that's not, it's not normal. It's like it's not this like thing where you need to know what everybody's doing all the time, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other part of it is, if someone is putting something out that's triggering to you, it's good to take a step back and say, is this something I need to work on?
Yeah,
or is this person putting out things that like I just don't really align with, right? And that goes back to what we were talking about when we did have the initial conversation about the Mike Tyson thing. We really talked through it, and it was like there was people that were putting things out that just did not align with our core values. Right. The way they were marketing, the way they were calling in clients, all sorts of things when it comes to like the business world that we're in. We don't align with those people. Why are we following those people? That's not giving our power away.
Right.
That is saying, I don't want to be in the same room, figuratively, social media wise. I don't want to be associated with those people, and I don't want to be associated with that type of business practice. Right? They're not out causing physical harm to people. Right. But we didn't want to be associated with that. So, you know, it's not always this dynamic of giving your power away. So it's, you know, you mentioned muting. It's like, stop following people that are bothering you. Yeah. If they don't align with your core values. If it's bothering you because like you see them off doing things and they're not inviting you, that's a little different. Right. That's something you need to work on, right? But not core value related.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and we can talk about all the tricks and the tools and the tips that we all already know, like don't pick up your phone and check social media first thing in the morning. You know, give yourself some space, and maybe use trackers and check the time, how much time you have been spending on social media. Allot yourself some time. Clock in, clock out if you're using it for business. Give yourself a digital detox, especially if you're not monetizing and you're just using it as personal. Definitely, you know, doing the work, seeing a therapist, doing journaling, meditating, like filling your cup up first. We all know all of these things that we can do, but at the end of the day, I don't think social media is going anywhere. anytime soon.
No, and it's been one of the most powerful communication tools, most powerful marketing tools, which marketing is a way of communication, right?
But again, you're saying a tool, so it's learning how to use the tool correctly and not as a weapon.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's easy to get sucked in and see a lot of negativity, but if you just, that's the stuff, push that stuff out and realize that it can do a lot of good.
Yeah.
So spread your message.
Any other last words?
No, but you didn't mention that this is a mic drop.
Mic drop, gotta go all the way back.
No, I'm just kidding.
So here's the thing that we have going on right now, which I'm really excited about. We have decided for Valentine's Day and the few days right around Valentine's Day to put together an incredible offer for you. So it's called Fall in Love with Social Media. It's a collection. So we have 3 different products, 3 different trainings, 3 different interactive areas, containers that you can come into. And what we're doing is we're talking through the psychology of social media, the ins and outs of how to use social media if you are using it to monetize. There are definitely things that you can learn on a personal level that would be really great for you, but this is really for the person who's using social media to monetize. So using social media as organic marketing. What we have is one of the programs is all around the psychology of why people buy, of why they click, of why they stop the scroll. Another one of the trainings that we have in here is all around the how-to. So how do you really write a post that's going to capture? How do you create an offer? How do you actually film a reel? How do you get good lighting? And then the third one is going to be a live interactive workshop with me. So 2 of the programs, you can do self-study. You get lifetime access to those. And the other one is going to be a live program that we're doing together where I'm going to be walking you through workshop style different tools of social media, how to sell effectively. And that's really cool because that's the secrets to selling, which is exactly how we've created a multi-million-dollar company off of selling on Instagram stories. I mean, that really is how we've done it. So we've learned a thing or two. We've packaged it together. I'm really excited. We'll drop all of the information into the show notes below, but the Fall in Love with Social Media collection is available, and we are doing it at a very, very special holiday discount. So I'm really excited to share that with everyone. The live will be happening on March 1st. So you can get your hands on all that, lifetime access, and then join us live.
Awesome.
Yes, I love it. Well, as always, friends, I hope to see you on social media, and cheers to your evolution.
I drank mine.
Oh.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.